So, welcome everybody. We are gathered around from the PHOENIX-OITB project to talk about women in science for International Women's Day 2023 on March 8th. I have with me a bunch of women PIs and contributors to the PHOENIX project. My name is Caitlin Ahern. I'm Scientific Communications Dissemination Manager at BNN, BioNanoNet. And we're going to have a short roundtable to introduce ourselves and then a discussion about the state of women in this industry right now. So we'll start with our scientific coordinator, Nazende. Could you briefly introduce yourself and what is your role in the project?
First of all, thank you very much, Caitlin, for initiating this wonderful meeting today. I am very happy to be part of it. I'm Nazende Günday from MyBiotech, Germany. I am Chief Innovation and Technology Officer at MyBiotech and Scientific Coordinator of the PHOENIX project.
Great, thanks. And Joanna?
I also want to join nice words of Nazende. It's really nice to be participating in such a type of interview, which I think is a great initiative. My name is Chahano, and I have like a double role. In one part, I am working in BioNanoNet Forschungsgesellschaft also, like you, Caitlin, where I make more things related to the innovation activities of the project. And on the other hand, I am involved through Grace BioPartner, in which we are producing one of the proteins of one of our demo cases.
Great. How about Mangala?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to be here. So my name is Mangala Srinivas. I currently work at Wageningen University as head of cell biology and immunology, and I'm also CSO of Senya Imaging, which is how I'm involved in PHOENIX because we are one of the demo cases. And I'm very excited to be part of PHOENIX because it has been really a learning experience for us. And I just wanted to add that I've been involved with the Wageningen with the Young Academy of Europe quite a lot. I was chair previously, so we did a lot of work on gender equality in STEM. And related to this topic, I also have 3 children, so it always adds to part of being a woman, I guess. Well, thank you.
Okay, great. How about Elizabeth?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for this initiative and inviting us to this interview. I'm a senior researcher at the Nanomol Group from the Institute of Material Science of Barcelona, which belongs to the Spanish National Research Council. I'm a PhD pharmacist with more than 15 years of scientific activity focused on the design and development of new type of nanoparticulate systems for advanced applications in biomedicine. And my role in the PHOENIX project is to coordinate and supervise the analytical development and preclinical testing with the aim to advance the development of 2 nanopharmaceuticals, which are 2 case studies of the project from the bench to the bedside.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, Angela?
Hi everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I am the mass spectrometry team leader at LinkBio Pro, and recently I am the new contact point and project manager for PHOENIX project, and LinkBio is working on one of the demo cases producing one of the proteins that we work on.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to start with an open question for anybody in the round. Right now, there's a lot of talk about women in STEM, girls in STEM. How do we get more girls to pursue scientific careers? But all of you started your careers way before all of these hashtags came out. So I'm curious, were any of you especially pushed to follow scientific careers? Was it something you did that was very rebellious? Was it expected of you or not? Did you have somebody encouraging you? So how did you get to be women in STEM?
Yeah, I mean, I was always into science. Since as a little girl, I was interested in biology, the environment, the world, how things work. So it was in me already starting from the very beginning. I think it was nothing rebellious. Nobody expected anything different than me because I was always curious. And then it was for sure that I will keep learning in science. This is what we do, isn't it? I mean, we don't stay in the same place more than a few days. We need to constantly learn. We need to be ourselves innovative and invest also know-how in ourselves. I think this was already clear from my side, starting from my childhood, that I will be a dedicated learner all through my life.
That's great. Anybody else want to share?
I think at least what I've experienced is it's always a little bit mixed. Usually, people in my family and relatives are sometimes they're openly supportive, but I feel that it's a little bit of this is what is the right thing to say, but perhaps you should have focused more on your family instead of your career and things like this. Sometimes I feel there is a lot of this in a hidden or in a more subtle manner. Um, but at the same time, like what Nazande said, you have to do what you think is right. And at least for both of us, I think what attracted us to this career is that it's always changing and you're always learning new things, which is, I find it really exciting.
Mm. What Nazinde and you said reminds me of a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson, who said, parents always come up to me at events and ask, how do I get my kids interested in science? And I tell them, just get out of their way because kids are naturally interested in science, and that goes for girls as well as boys. So if you're taking away these barriers and these um, distractions and so on, then just as many girls will probably pursue these paths. Um, so Elizabeth, you talked in your interview, and we'll be publishing these interviews the next couple of weeks, that at your organization they have a gender equality committee. Could you tell us about some of the concrete measures that they've taken? Is there anything that they've implemented that you think has really made a difference?
Yes, our institute is very aware of the importance of achieving equal opportunities in research and professional activity. In fact, our institute has been awarded by the Spanish National Research Council with the Gender Equality Certificate. And some measures that have been taken related with this issue are fostering gender balance in research teams. Also, when data is reported, this is disaggregated by sex. Also, ensure gender balance on important decision-making committees and panels. In this sense, promote gender balance in the selection of evaluators. Use inclusive language and inclusive communication to not only make visible the presence of women, but also to highlight their contributions to science and society and help them become reference in these areas. When organizing seminars, conferences, make sure that women are properly represented in these events. And also organizing women in science events, for example, celebrating the International Day of Women and Girls in Science at the Institute, offering, among other activities, seminars, workshops at the Institute in which also schools can visit us, and also some of the Institute researchers give scientific talks in different schools and institutes in order to encourage scientific vocation in the young boys and girls.
Wow, that's quite a great plan. And do you find that it's easy to implement? Is it difficult? Do you have to go through your checklist when you're doing an event, or does it come natural to the team now?
So there is a lot of still work to do on this, but we think that we are in the good pathway, and we are then achieving important milestones in this area.
Great. I'm curious about the rest of you when you hear this. So some of us are in smaller organizations, some in bigger. Do you have any experience with gender equality committees or certain guidelines in your workplace that have made a difference, whether they're small things, whether they're large things? I'm thinking of, for example, a boss that I had in an old job where he had a policy that you could never talk about somebody's appearance. So somebody comes in with a new haircut, you don't mention it. No, I like your jacket, nice shoes, nothing. And it was really amazing to me how much that had an effect and how many times a day I had to close my mouth to not make some comment about someone's appearance, but it really made a difference to me in the workplace. And it was such a small thing, but it had quite an impact. So anybody else from your workplace have something that you can share that has made a difference?
we are a really small company now, so and most of our are women. So I haven't seen any situation for sexism here at Limbayo, but that's yeah.
That's great. Well, yeah, increasing the number of women in your workplace will definitely be a good measure for everybody. Yeah.
Maybe
Um,
at
yeah,
my
Magla.
university, we have this new policy now, which is really good. I think that at all hiring committees, the people come up with the questions beforehand, and these have to be looked at by an expert in diversity and inclusivity, because it's amazing sometimes the way the questions are phrased are already leading, and even though maybe you didn't mean it that way, but then you're not giving the person a fair chance for a response. So I think having the questions checked is really important, and then we also ensure that we ask the same question to all the candidates, so that makes the interview process a lot more fair.
That's great. That's a really interesting idea. I think a lot of people could implement that. Mangala, while you have your mic on, you shared 3 publications that you worked on in the past about care work affecting careers in academia. We will link to those in your interview, but could you tell us a little summary about what you found out in your research?
Yeah, so these were done, I think one of the publications is most relevant, and these were all published in Nature Careers, where it's done through the Young Academy. And we looked at the impact of the pandemic. And, a lot of, in academia at least, a lot of grants, for example, have a specific deadline that you can apply within a certain time, or tenure track requirements. And then the pandemic with the lockdown and the closure of the daycares and all of this had a lot of impact. And then there was a lot of thought, or at least hopefully there was a lot of thought on how to account for this, because it's not fair to hold the same standards when you've had these disruptions in your career. And so we did a survey of several academics who were doing really well, or at least on the outside it looked like they were doing really well. And this has been reproduced in a lot of other studies as well, that people with care responsibilities, whether it's children or family or elderly parents, whatever, this affects your career. And these kind of things are very difficult to quantify and to account for. And I'm sure that it's also for industries, not only for academia. So that's kind of what we try to look at in those papers.
Were there any ways that you found institutes could kind of balance this disparity?
Well, I think the first is to be aware that there is a cost to being a carer, and we said carer because it's often the mother, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be the father, or you could be looking after your parents or other family, right? It's not always about children. Um, but I think nowadays, in a lot of settings, you can at least say that you had these responsibilities and how many months you didn't have daycare or how many months you were involved in care. So at least you can get a postponement of your requirement deadlines. But I think it's very difficult to have specific ways to help because it's so personalized.
Yeah. Thanks. Johanna, you received an MBA while working at a scientific research center. And so you're also currently involved in innovation and business development. So is the experience of being a woman in science different for you as the experience from being a woman in business?
It's a good question, maybe, and I think it's completely personal. I mean, everyone feels it or experiences it in a different way, I'm sure. If I have to speak for myself, it is as much as complex in one and the other field. I cannot say that I have to or that I experience harder in one way or the other. The only thing that I can say it's different. For myself, I feel the scientific community much more an easygoing community and much more easier to not easier, but much more comfortable way in doing industry. Or yes, industry community can be very tough sometimes and very, very, very not only competitive but very aggressive. But again, it depends, and you can also find very comfortable let's say, communities within the industry community. It's not always that industries are competitive and very aggressive. It's not like that, but maybe yes, if I can compare it, at some point it's a little bit more aggressive, at least if you are in the managing roles, I would say, or I would dare say. But I cannot say that it has been really different. For me, having both backgrounds helps me a lot, always, one in the other field, because I think having the whole picture always helps you to get along and to push forward your work in both type of careers. So for me, definitely they are complementary.
Yeah. And I could definitely read from all of your interviews the feeling that being a woman in science right now, and especially in this area of pharmaceuticals, nanopharmaceutical, etc., that everybody sort of tangentially related to, is a very welcoming community compared to a lot of other ones. And that's if you ask some other women in different areas, they might have very different answers. So it was really encouraging to hear what it was like for a lot of you. Now, Zendi, I want to turn to you. So I heard, but you can verify this for me, that you kind of restarted your career a little bit later in life than some others. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And was it hard to start fresh? Did you see some benefits from making a career change later?
Yes, both questions, the answer is yes. So it was hard, but it was also beneficial, definitely. So I'm a chemist actually. But immediately after finishing my studies, I pursued a career, industrial career in R&D of pharmaceutics. And this was already leaving the first comfort zone, because I am trained as a chemist and I started in a pharmacy related industry. So this meant for me, you need to leave your comfort zone immediately so that you can go to growth zone, but it's not a straight path. So you go through this fear zone where you lack confidence, you are very keen on others' opinions, and then if you can come over this, you are more entered into a learning zone, and then you can grow because you need to acquire new skills. This was the first time that I left it. It was not that scary back then because I was young. I was very well supported. People's opinion were only good, and as I already did also later in the second part that I had to take this challenge, I must say I am surrounded with very strong women in my life, all supportive. Then I worked 4 years in the industry in galenic and analytical development of traditional pharmaceutics, starting from zero till the dossiers. And then I knew always that I wanted to pursue academic career, also to deepen my knowledge in this area. And I chose to stay in the area of biotechnology and pharmacy. And this meant for me, again, leaving the comfort that I recreated around this new topic where I was in a good leading position, well paid, secured environment, know what I do, and I started from scratch. Okay, I need to put on top. And this is what I meant with this continuous learner. So if I realize that the pace is getting slower, I'm looking for new challenges. Good, bad, one can discuss. But one thing that I learned through this, each case, leaving my comfort zone, going through these different zones till I can grow where I am really pursuing my dreams. It was hard. I myself was very motivated, but I was lucky to be surrounded with women like me. And this is what I'm also still doing. So second time that I did was because first time I left it to also change completely the country. I left my home country. I moved to another country to start from zero with bare minimum language knowledge and bare minimum knowledge in the area of science, but I was super well supported. Through this, though, I must say these milestones only contributed to the person who I am today, and I'm doing my best to also support the new coming generations with this in my memories coming through this. I know what I have been. I already, we grow only if we make use of the failures and the lack of certain things. And I try to make sure that I fill these gaps for the new generations by offering constant internship programs, mentorships. Also, in my spare time, I am trying to be involved in more students from my previous institutions, academic background, and everything. And this is I think the only thing that we can do, help people like us, women and girl in STEM, to come to this, because as all very well put on the table during these meetings, people feel themselves more entitled to comment on women than men, because there is a stereotype that it is expected that women primarily carry. It is expected that man is the breadwinner and women are to take care of the household and the children, but it's not the case anymore. Though I don't want to underestimate the number of men who are really taking these roles gender neutral and being involved. They know that we are not their housekeepers, so they know we are peers, we are sharing this life together. And I think to many women who were maybe as enthusiastic as we are, this barrier set by the society, consciously or unconsciously, because I truly believe there is a lot of unconscious bias in these things as well currently. I think this are, if we lift these barriers, as you already mentioned, we get the way, we can take them out of our way. Anyone can come to the point that they dream of. Yes, we need to leave our comfort zones constantly in science, I mean, because you need to constantly learn new things, and it is only possible if we support each other as human, but for the sake of the next generations, that they can take it as a gender equality, equal thing, that I think women in STEM need to support each other, also women in society in total.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And your comment about people commenting on women more than men, that's such a subtle but I think really powerful thing. I can't count how many times I've been at a work event that may or work travel where somebody has asked me, "Who's watching your kids?" And I don't think that people are asking the men at those conferences, "Who's watching your kids that you can be here?" And this is just such a small thing, but it really can make a difference. You mentioned your support system and also starting later in life, your career. I was thinking about my own mother who had a career in one industry, then was home with the kids for about 10 years, and then started her PhD at age 37, which at that time was in the suburbs was definitely unheard of. And without a great support system, things are different now. But she was definitely a role model for me in following a passion, even if it's really difficult and even if it's not easy from the outside. And Angela, you talked about your mother in your interview as your role model for financial independence. This is another big issue for women in their careers. Can you tell us a little bit about her and how important do you think it is to be financially independent as you're managing your career and maybe often a lot of you had to study for a long time where financial independence is maybe not so easy. So I'd love to hear more about that from you.
Okay, so yeah, my mother always taught me, my sister and I, the importance of being a working woman, and I've seen her always working. She works as a nurse for more than 35 years, and I've seen her working in night shifts or working, for example, in Christmas Day or so not being always at home, for example. But I think that it's really important to see a role model or your mother working, and on top of that is receive our own salary. So it's one of the most goal of my life, so being financially independent. And I think that gives you freedom, for example, to achieve whatever you want. For example, from banal things like buying a ticket flight for a trip that I want to do, but also, for example, if I continue on my education and doing training course, for example, for enhancing my skills. So yeah, it's really important for me. So being financially independent and gives you more success, for example, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one, um, again, most of you had very little examples of sexism in the workplace, but definitely in other places it can be worse. And having that knowledge that you could leave your job if needed, if there was anything, any situation where you didn't feel uncomfortable, you could leave the next day and know you'd be fine, which not everybody has. Um, and Nisinde also talked about resources that she offers to kind of help the younger people. I wanted to ask you all, are there certain resources that that you offer in your jobs for helping, for supporting women, or also resources that you've taken advantage of that have made a difference, whether they're networking groups, whether they're books that you read, whether they're trainings offered by your company. I'm just curious if there's anything specific or general that you can recommend to other young women, or not so young anymore women, but people in their working on their careers in science. Mangala at Senya, do you have any kind of internship programs or kind of programs for women early in their career?
Not no, because Sanya is a very small company. We don't have the manpower or person power to do that. That's already a biased term to use, but 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 of course, for the university, we do a lot. And I think you asked earlier about what resources are available, and I think nowadays there are so many social media channels, you know, on YouTube or on newsletters and things that are really, really good. Of course, you have to find them, but some of them really do help with by talking about things like imposter syndrome and unconscious bias and all these things which affect all of us, whether you know it or not. And I think those resources are really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's really great. Are there any ones specifically that you can call out? We'd love to get some things we can link to in
No,
the
but
interview.
I maybe you have to edit
As
this,
they
but
come up on LinkedIn, you like to see them. Yeah.
I'm allowed to share specific. I mean, we're not linked to them, right?
Mhm.
But I can put something in the comments, maybe, or something.
Yeah, it would be great. Elizabeth, do you have any specific resources, people that you like to follow, um, books that you read that have you helped you in this area?
From the institute, from the Institute of Material Science of Barcelona, active scientists have created a dramatized reading which explains the story of women scientists from different areas. So these are, for example, in some Instagram, and there are different activities related to this that are offered to people to follow.
And
That's great.
Caitlin, I personally believe we are an entire transitioning generation. So before us, maybe one up, so really gray zone, but women were not as privileged as we are today because they didn't even have certain rights to certain decades in some countries. And we are actually doing our best to be also the role models for the next generations, that they see that, okay, we are here, we are there, we did this, was maybe not the most the smooth way to do it, but it's possible that they don't even think about it. So in, as we already mentioned, in science, we are offering internships, mentorships, but this is an area really women are abundant. It's not, I cannot say it. So the women in science are well represented, I believe. Also, what I am personally doing at national level, this was, I must say, not my initiation, but a national organization in Germany. Women are also being encouraged to other professions where they are not really, they are outnumbered by men. And it is usually the stereotype. This is man job, this is women job, you do that, and women, they have no place in such environment whatsoever. I mean, even in science, a higher generation of ours, we saw all the old boys band, where they know always better than young, delicate women like us. So this is something that one needs to also kind of break the chain for other professions as well. And I think being role models, being there itself is already something good. because we do it not only for ourselves, but for a greater good as well. Wherever I go, I try to identify young, motivated women who are maybe not as fortunate as I am. This can be a financial support, this can be a emotional support, this can be just a go girl, you get this. So it doesn't necessarily need to be of to a great extent, but just it's like butterfly effect, no? Small acts might have a really big impact on some future things. This is my personal motto: do what you can. It is as much as I can. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is.
Yeah, you never know what tiny things you do or say will have an effect on someone else that influences their decisions
I
they're
have
gonna
so
make.
many examples from my private and professional life in this matter. These things are making me very happy. That
Yeah,
knowing that touching lives, helping to change them, sometimes just raising awareness. Sometimes people are not even aware of this. This is also, there is nothing small or tiny. I am sure it will lead to a greater good.
mm-hmm. That's really great. Yeah, Mangala?
I just wanted to add to what Nazande said. I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing, Nazande. And I think it's really important that people who are role models also talk about their struggles and their failures, because for people who are starting their career, all they see is, you know, that you were so successful and look, everything happened, but they don't see all the work that went into it in the background, all the nights that you were working or whatever. And I think it's really important to share that so other people know that they can also do it. You know, it is a struggle for everyone.
Definitely. Joanna, what about you? Do you have certain people that you like to follow or accounts, inspirational women in your field
In my field, in my field,
or in
maybe
general?
there are lots of people that I would follow, let's say, but maybe a big inspiration for myself. I already stated it in the interview that you will share at
Yeah,
some point
please.
or not, I don't know.
Yep.
It's a German research writer who is called Jessica von Bredow-Wendel, because she really covers, I think, the whole chain from what we are now talking, because she's young. She's in a very, very competitive, let's say, level. She's an Olympic rider, so she's really on the top, on the top, on the top. On top of that, in research level and research of horses, which in Germany, which is one of the most successful countries in research competition. So she's really on the highest top of competition, and she's also mother of two kids. Working with horses, I know it also because it's a passion for myself. Is a all day thing also, because if you need to train them, you need patience. It's an animal and it's a very sensitive animal, so you will never get nothing from him or her if it's a mare, because you tell him, but because you find a sort of symbiosis with him. So for me, it she really taught me also how to deal with energy that you need to deal with the animal in order that you be successful. And at the same time, it helped me a lot in my work, in my daily work, because also there we, of course, we need to somehow make a symbiosis with our teams behind and try to understand them. Everyone has problems from time to time, on the private life, on the work life. It doesn't matter, and sometimes you don't need to be aware because they don't have explained you. But I think that if you are in a managing role, you need to somehow sense that there is something that you need to give space or to give time or try to help in an indirect or direct way, and all these I think I have it learned through horses, but more specifically through this specific girl or woman, successful woman that really do it great. So it's not
Yep.
from the biotech or the pharma side,
Yeah.
but definitely it's also a complementary thing, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's really great when you can find inspiration from people who have the same messages but from a completely different background. What about you, Angela? Do you have any special tips for us, people that you inspire you, accounts that you like to follow for inspiration?
Well, I'm not well, I don't have a special one account for to follow, but I am following different accounts for women empowerment. So it's good to, the last 10 minutes of the day, seeing some topics about you can do whatever you want, or not giving up, you are valuable, and yeah, it's having some ideas that sometimes you forget along the day. So I like that, to see these topics or these highlights, these sentences to empower and to inspire you.
That's great. Yeah, we're in a age where that's really easy to find on LinkedIn and social media. I will end this round with one of my
Sorry,
own.
Kate,
Yeah, go ahead.
interrupting, but I like what Angela said. So instead of validations, she's going for confirmation, actually. And I think this is something already ahead of where we started, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Mangala mentioned unconscious bias, and I really like this social media account called Man Who Has It All. And all it does is take typical social media posts or messages that you get from women's magazines and just flips the gender. So something like, men, are you feeling overwhelmed and tired? You should just wake up an hour earlier and moisturize your beard for an extra 30 minutes while, getting the kids' lunches ready for school. And it's just simple things. That's all they do. And every time I'm really surprised at how ridiculous they sound when you switch the genders. These messages that we're getting every day from all directions, and how shocking they are to me, because I think, yeah, I know all about feminism and sexism, and I should see these things coming, but it's really, there's so many messages that we're given implicitly in day-to-day life, not necessarily in our careers, but definitely during the day. So that's a really fun one for me. So we're going to wrap up this round, but I really enjoyed it. I think we could talk definitely for hours, and hopefully soon in person another time. But everybody who's watching can read more in our upcoming interviews that'll be published after International Women's Day on March 8th, and where we go into depth in some of these questions with each of our interviewees. And check them out on our website on phoenix-oitb.eu. So thank you everybody for coming. I really enjoyed it, and we'll let you get back to all the impressive science you're doing the rest of the day. So thanks for coming.